Last night we were watching for this blue wave to come along, and instead a red wave came in its place. I'm Matthew Goodwin Freeman, and my panel today are going to be debating what does the result mean, and particularly what does it mean for the war in Ukraine. Joining me today, I've got Shaun Pinner, a British soldier who's fought bravely in Ukraine and written a book, Live, Fight, Survive, covering his time in Russian captivity. We've got Gia Santos, a well-respected Latin American journalist and humanitarian who writes for Ukraine Today and other outlets. We've got a political commentator, David Atherton, John Jackson, a respected American soldier who's also in Ukraine right now, and me, Matthew Goodwin Freeman, chief editor here at VoteWatch. Well. To quote Nigel Farage, guess who's back? I mean, did anyone expect that? That was something out of the blue. The poll said it was going to be unbelievably narrow, but I'm just looking at the latest stats. He's on 279, Kamala's on 223, and there's still 4 states to go, including several swing states. I mean, crikey, Dave, we'll go to you. What's your thoughts? What's your immediate reaction?
Well, before we kick off, I might be reasonably critical of Ukraine and very pro-Trump, but can I just very quickly say 80% of my sympathies are with Ukrainians, and only about 20% are with the Russians and that nasty piece of work, Vladimir Putin. So anyway, I think peace is coming to Ukraine, and I think Trump will be on a crusade to bring peace to the world and to the Middle East as well. But I think particularly Ukraine. Now, one of the things, sort of journalists in me, I understand the war isn't going so well for the Ukrainians at the moment. Please tell me if I'm wrong. I understand that they're occupying about a fifth of the Ukraine at the moment, and also with the introduction of fresh troops from North Korea, surely peace is very much in your favour, for the Ukrainian nation. I think that is to be welcomed. Britain has spent £12.8 billion on the war so far, and it's pledged to spend another £3 billion a year. Well, we can't even afford to give our pensioners a winter allowance, which costs about £1 billion a year. So they can heat their homes over the winter period. Now, of course, Putin can't be allowed to get away with all these war crimes, for want of a better phrase. But the other side of the coin, though, is surely it is in the world's and Ukraine's favour that we've got somebody who's going to be pushing for peace in the region.
Well, John, I want to come to you on your thoughts on that. You're currently in Kiev. What's your thoughts on what Dave's just said there?
Well, there's a lot of thoughts. I would say, number one, I would say that the war is actually going exceptionally well for Ukraine, considering the odds that they were against, the low chances they were giving of even surviving a week. Russia has 700,000 casualties, 9,000 armored vehicles lost, and Russia has gained almost zero the ground in this war overall over time. Also, I would say that the fact they're having to rely upon North Korean soldiers is a sign of weakness and of strength. There are, and I want to remember that there are millions of people living under occupation right now, and those occupation conditions are as bad as anything that the Nazis did or that Stalin did to people in the country, including Ukraine. Ukraine has been subjected to hundreds of years of genocide from the Holodomor onward, and there's numerous mass graves just around Kyiv. So I think that what the Ukrainian people are looking at is a situation where Vladimir Putin has broken over 100 written agreements. Every time that Ukraine negotiates and tries to reach a peace deal, it's not a peace deal. It's a chance to rearm, re-equip, and re-genocide that country. So in my sense of the people around here is we're going to carry on the fight because we have no choice. There is no peace to be made with a person who wants to erase your national identity. We saw recently that the terms of the peace deal that was offered by Russia in 2023 in March were actually erasing Ukrainian culture and identity. So, peace would always be in the interest, but peace at what cost? And is it a true and lasting, durable peace? You look at North Korea and South Korea, we've had, many, since the 1950s of the Korean War, we've had a durable peace there. A lot of provocations both ways, but Russia is not able to even get through one agreement, 1 month, 1 week, 1 day. People have been dying since 2014 until now, and they're continuing to die under occupation. So the cost here is going to be one where you have an unreliable partner who will breach the agreement. And I believe that Vladimir Putin's army, we're going to fight them now in Ukraine, or they're going to be fighting in Europe. and we're going to look at a much greater cost. So I think there's always the cost that we look at, and we tend to analyze somewhat dogmatically that peace is always better than war. But we look at sometimes the cost of not fighting is what we also need to look at, and what that's going to be like in the future. There has been an upward trajectory of Vladimir Putin invading other countries and escalating. And he was just recently, there was a story, don't remember what publication it was in, but that they were putting incendiary devices on U.S. passenger planes. This is a form of terrorism. We put Ramzi Youssef in prison for life for what he did in what's called the Bojinka plot, where he tried to blow up, do the exact same thing. So that's what I'm looking at. Ukraine will carry on. We will continue to fight. And
John, if I could ask you a question, how long, if the war went on for a number of months or years or whatever, or even decades, how long do you think you would say the war has gone on too long for?
Well, I would compare this to the major land war. Look at World War I, World War II, look at the Korean War, look at the U.S. Civil War. We're 3 years in with someone like Ukraine who's had a hand tied behind their back with the restrictions that the Biden administration put on Ukraine's use of long-range weapons. It is unfair for Ukraine to have that hand tied behind its back, which has caused some of the delays. If they had been fully armed and equipped, this war probably would be over right now. It's for the Ukrainian people to decide, not me. But those wars, those great wars, 4 to 5 years is what they take. And at this time period, in those other great wars, look at the Civil War. They didn't think Abraham Lincoln was going to get reelected 1863, 1864. Look at where we were before the Battle of Midway in World War II, and even after that. So this is a familiar time, if you look at history, to be in the middle of a conflict, a great conflict. And I think they're doing great for the chances that people gave them.
And John, if I can bring Gia into this. Gia, what do you think the future is now with Donald Trump as president? Because a lot of Latino voters seem to have actually voted for Trump this time, which many here in the UK, for example, would find a bit of a surprise given the comments during the election campaign. Why do you think that is? And what do you think the future is for the world after this?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I was a bit surprised as well, not too surprised, but I had a little bit of hope that maybe we would still be working with the Biden administration. However, as far as Latino vote, the reason that is because a lot of Latinos are also conservative, and it's something that's not really, shown to the media. A lot of people tend to think, they'll vote Democrat because they care about minority issues, and that's true. That's actually true. But for the most part, you have to understand that there's Latinos that have, left socialist countries, dictatorships. So a lot of them will actually vote Republican for that reason.
Well,
regardless
really,
of the comments they've made.
If I can make a very quick point here. No, it's also not the reason that Latinos tend to be sort of more on the sort of the lower end of the job market. And all these illegal immigrants are going to be lowering their wages, if not taking their jobs.
Now, if I can bring Shaun into this. Shaun, someone who got a lot of stick last night on Channel 4 for promoting his book, which I have a copy here. It's Unleashed, and his name's Boris Johnson. So go on, cancel me, Channel 4. He got a lot of stick last night for basically saying that Trump would support Ukraine to help and end the war, and that Trump, when he was in charge and a massive advocate. What's your thoughts? I mean, you know this, having been there on the front line, obviously captivity by Russia as well.
I'm forced to do a video to Boris Johnson.
Absolutely. No. So
yeah.
Tell us what's your thoughts on Trump president, and is Boris right?
Well, I'm going to touch on a couple of things, Dave. Yeah, definitely peace, but in what format? I mean, I've lost. My wife's lost 2 houses now to Russian invasions. I've now lost a house in the left bank in Mariupol, which Russia has stolen. Do we give up on the people that are in the occupied territories?
Sure. Well,
there's quite a lot.
Hold on, Dave. So I'll come back to you in a minute.
There's at one point. I'm going to go more on the personal. I absolutely agree with everything John said, so I won't be sort of repeat any of that. But I'm going to go more on a personal note. Obviously, for me, we're in the unknown. It's here, so I'm not one for just sort of putting a death nail in anything. It's happened, so we've got to deal with it. So my view is that, we've got Trump in place who really has persecuted Zelensky at every turn, to be honest. I think one of his comments were he thinks Zelensky is a great salesman in history, he said. Every time he comes to the country, he walks away with 60 billion. His new VP JD Vance said, I don't really care what happens about Ukraine. I think it's the unknown, which is why a lot of Ukrainians led and looked towards Harris. So now that it's over and done with, I think you've got now the unknown of, well, what's going to happen with Trump? Is he going to side with Putin? He's certainly not said anything bad about Putin. On the contrary, he said absolutely flattering things about Putin. So that's why everybody in Ukraine is quite gloomy at the moment. That's why we're all sitting here wondering what on earth is going to happen in the future.
So, Dave, I want to what's your thoughts?
I just wanted to say this is the art of the deal. This is the art of negotiation. You should get your house back. There should be private property rights, and the people, if people have moved into it, they should be turfed out by the scruff of their neck. So my sympathies are with you on that one. But today, Putin's spokesman still said he regarded Donald Trump as the enemy. So I think Donald Trump's, you say, muscular approach to American-Russian relationships.
I personally think there's a lot of fluff there, to be honest. I really do. There's a lot of fluff there in that.
Yeah, you may be right. You may be right to a certain extent, but still, nevertheless, I'm sure there must be an aspect of Trump. Trump probably likes it because Putin is a dictator and a tyrant, and he's absolutely in power of the whole nation, kind of thing. So probably Trump is probably quite he admires that kind of approach. But at the end of the day, there will be people who probably will be speaking to him in a certain amount of sense. And also as well, if he gets a fair deal for Ukraine, I think people will be eternally grateful to him.
Well, I'm just going
to jump in on one thing quick. What Trump said was, Ukraine is gone. It's not Ukraine anymore. You can never replace those cities and towns, and you can never replace the dead people. So many dead people. What he didn't get a grasp of is Ukraine's actually regained over 50% of the country that was originally taken by Russia in 2022. What is not understood is the size of the country.
Yeah.
There's less than 18% of the country that is damaged under a warfare with one of the longest front lines since World War II.
Shaun, my next question was going to be, my next question was going to be, do you think Ukraine can still win this war?
With the support of Europe and the NATO, European Union, and America, yes, absolutely.
What does that support need to look like? What does the support need to look like from the West and hopefully from a Trump administration?
Well, I've just come from the front line in Pokrovsk, where I work with my charity down there, and their biggest threat at the moment is cabs and FPV drones. So we need the ability to really shoot those planes down and long range missiles and being able to hit long range targets in Russia. Firstly, and then we need this as a minimum now. You remember we had 1 year artillery drought where we didn't even know where we're going to be in the Ukraine. There's some of the horror stories on the front line because we put ourselves in that situation. A lot of the problems we got now was because we didn't have any rounds for several months. No help. All the aid held back. So, a lot of the problems of the drag out is made by the West, not Ukraine. It's made by the West dragging out all this stuff.
John, do you agree? Is it the West's fault that this war hasn't been finished by now? Can Ukraine still win?
Yeah, they can absolutely still win. And, I remember that shortages of ammunition between 5.56 ammunition, which is what's used by M4s, M16s, and then not having that ammunition, going on missions, things of that nature. And it's so hard to fight a war, and logistics is what win wars. Napoleon famously said, an army marches on its stomach. And to not even know when you're going to have those supplies and to have them promised but then not actually come, it's a miracle that Ukraine is still, I believe, winning this war, and they absolutely can win this war. But they've got to, when they promise something, they've got to deliver, and they've got to let us use the weapons that we have fully to their capability in all areas.
Dave, who will win? Ukraine, Russia, or probably no one in a weird stalemate?
If you'd asked me before the program, I would have said to you Russia, but listen to John and Shaun and what have you. Maybe Ukraine might sneak it if you have the right kit. So Ukrainians don't have knowledge of, but I don't have the expertise in. So hence I'm asking questions and listening rather than talking on this one. So I'm keeping an open mind and everything. But all I'm saying is, good luck, guys. And you're obviously very brave men on the front line. So good luck to you all. But so you changed my mind. I thought Russia was going to win. Maybe Ukraine can win.
See, that's what we do here at VoteWatch. We bring.
I wanted to jump in real quick on something that Shaun. Yeah, real quick. That what Shaun said is that Donald Trump had said Ukraine can't win. The cities are gone. Donald Trump also said, let's be clear, as we're talking about what's at stake here, and that is he said the same thing that Abraham Lincoln should have negotiated with the Confederacy. And I mean, think about that. We'd still have slavery. So I look at those two things together, and I think to myself, maybe his judgment isn't very sound on that issue, and he needs to change his mind.
Well, let's not go into slavery because
it's just one more thing.
Ukraine.
Putin can end this war any day he wants. He can end it tomorrow. Nobody's even sort of brought that up. So this is where we sit with it. Putin, if Ukraine falls, it's fallen. Ukraine can end it. Russia can end this and pull back, and there's still a Russia, there's still a Ukraine.
And I want to get to Gia as well. What is your message to Ukrainians back home who might be anxious and wondering what this now means with the Trump presidency and obviously the war carrying on? What's your message to Ukrainians?
I actually met a few of them from taxi drivers, people at the grocery store and bars, you name it. They're everywhere. So I would say don't give up. Don't be anxious. Definitely keep advocating for the rest of that aid that hasn't even been sent over to Ukraine. A lot of people think, well, it's just a lot of billions and billions and millions being sent over. What are they doing with it? The fact is, I think about 10% has made it to Ukraine. So we need the rest of that to be, not just approved, but sent over. Another thing, I really think that restrictions have to be removed so that Ukraine can strike back. That's number one, definitely, with a lot of the airstrikes. Not just in the east, but all across Ukraine, even Kyiv. It just, it's something that it has an easy solution. And unfortunately, the Biden administration couldn't do it. So let's see what this new administration can do.
John, what's your message to not only Ukrainians, but Ukraine supporters in America?
Well, Ukraine is a strong nation with strong people. They will carry on. Trump doesn't control the Ukrainian military. The restrictions are off, and believe in Ukraine. They've made it this far, and they will make us proud as they always have.
Thank you. And Shaun, any message for Ukrainians around the world?
Believe, keep believing, keep having hope. I go on about hope all the time. It's an undervalued asset and could lead you to do amazing things. You wouldn't put it in any military plan, but you need hope.
And Dave, I'll come to you as the newfound belief that Ukraine might win this. That's what we do here at VoteWatch. We put opinions together and change minds with different arguments. What's your reflection on the whole thing? What's your reflection on the whole war? And what would be the message to both sides now?
Trump needs to tread carefully in dealing with Putin and not be slavish to him. And if I make the most general point I can about the whole war, Europeans should not be fighting Europeans. Now, I look upon the greatest geopolitical threat in the world to be China and militant Islam. We shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be living as independent countries, and facing the threat from the Middle East, North Africa, and most importantly, China.
Thank you so much. Well, look, that's all the questions that we've got. I just want to quickly plug, Shaun, your book again, Live, Fight, Survive. Please, anyone watching this, go and get it. Support Shaun and support the fantastic work that he's doing. We're going to carry on the discussion below in the comments. Are you happy that Trump is back? Or is this a disaster for a season 2 that you never wanted? I want to thank my panel, Gia, John, Shaun, Dave. I've been Matthew Goodman-Freeman. Thank you. This is VoteWatch. Let's go. Trump's back in the White House.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.